Weird West is an action RPG set in the Old West. Although the game has some elements of immersive sim, the whole game is designed as a sandbox for the player. Take an action, there's going to be a consequence. Actions, they are permanent, they can't be undone, and that makes the game all the more intriguing. And Weird West is a good description of the game as well as the genre. It certainly is weird, but it's one you should definitely give a try. Weird West has a lot of stealth in it, plenty of action, and basically it's a twin-stick shooter. It's mainly a sandpit to play in, although the narrative in the game is held together by 5 overarching stories. So you've got an underlying strangeness to the story, given we're being forced into the bodies of different people by a gang of evil characters. We've definitely done this before in games, take on a character or the consciousness of someone in the world, but here in Weird West it tries to add some meat to the bones in terms of why. Well, to add to the confusion and fun at times, there's also a small matter of our character being an amnesiac, so you've got to get up to speed to who you are and what you're doing fast. Well, supporting the gameplay is an undercurrent of darkness. This is done through exceptional character and environmental building and storytelling, so Weird West is played from an isometric point of view, whereas in previous games like this, we may have played in first person or third person, but I think the isometric does work really, really well. Adding to the darkness and the tension throughout, enemies like zombies, werewolves, and other nighttime nasties are on the lookout for your blood. Well, there's 5 characters overall, and you're going to inhabit them throughout the story in Weird West. So each character you hop into has its own backstory, and these different character arcs could be seen as chapters or levels in the game. Now, each character's story can take a few hours, or much more depending on how much you want to explore, and get into the character's life and the backstory. Now, the first we encounter is Jane. She's a bounty hunter who's trying to track down her kidnapped husband. Then we've got a strange pig-like person who's trying to find out why he is the way he is, and what his past entailed. There's a story about a tribal leader fighting a green demon, and a werewolf who thinks he's destined to lead his people. Now, the stories are really unique, interesting and grotesque at times, but they definitely keep you on your toes. It all starts out fairly simple with Jane, although you're going to be chasing werewolves in absolutely no time at all. Now, the stories aren't very interconnected, but once you've finished up the main quest, you're free to explore and chat with whomever you like. We got 4 loose classes in the game. For example, you got the bounty hunter's landmines, the pigman's poison, and the werewolf's invisibility. So the class abilities relate to the characters. There's also more generic skills too, like electric bullets, silencers, and arrows. You've got to level these up, but these features persist, which is a nice touch. The progression across the characters is very useful as you get further into the game, meaning you're going to start later levels in a much more powerful state than when you were starting fresh. So when you move on to another story, you can go back and recruit these characters into your party as you have 2 companions. And given there is a permadeath feature, do be careful with these folks, as if they die, they're gone from your playthrough. Weird West may sound like it's all about story and narrative, but it's also about twin-stick shooting too. So given this is the gameplay style. Now, much like Enter the Gungeon, the game can get very busy very quickly. You got pistols, shotguns and rifles all going off, trying to avoid your opponent's bullets as well as aim your own. Luckily, you've got a decent slow motion button which makes things a little bit more manageable, and slow motion can be activated automatically when you go into a dive. Well, the slow motion feature is good fun, especially when combined with the environmental elements. Weird West is all action, but there's an immersive sim in there too, which makes sense given the history of the team who worked on the game. So Wolfeye was founded by former Arcane team members who put out great games like Prey and Dishonored, plus one of 2021's best games, Deathloop. And Arcane always had great physics elements to their games, and the Wolfeye team have brought that to the experience in Weird West, albeit from an isometric angle rather than the first person. Weird West offers you the chance to try things, more often than not that they work. For example, you can light arrows and fire them into things, flammable things, and then set things on fire. You can also use the water to put out fire or oil to ramp up the fire, so water and electricity also tend to go well together. And if you're looking to cause some destruction, so Weird West allows you to experiment, and for the most part, these experiments do pay off. So the game feels like a big playground, and to help move things along, there's plenty of people you can speak to, and a lot of them need your help. For example, early on in the game, the baddie has a penchant for eating people and likes to hold people in cages like animals, so doing the decent and ridding the world of these unsavoury characters seems like a good idea. The decision you make and your actions are remembered throughout the game, as later a quest will be marked you helped free her husband from capture, and it's a nice way to tie stories and characters together to make the world feel nice and connected. Well, there's a lot to like about the game, however, there are a few drawbacks as well. The game can feel a little bit buggy, with enemies walking in strange ways, definitely unintended ways, and party members sometimes didn't respond or just other random stuff happening. These kinds of bugs can be patched out through some careful post-launch bug fixing, so hopefully these will all be cleaned up as the days and the weeks go by. And they certainly weren't game-breaking by any means, rather they were just little annoyances. Also, this game is full of stealth. I'm not really a massive stealth fan to be honest, but that is just down to personal taste. Along your journey you'll be picking up plenty of loot. You can root through pockets of downed enemies, pick up things off shelves, take cash from tills and plenty more. Weird West definitely wants you to explore, and it's going to reward your time for doing so. Therefore, I'd recommend combing over every nook and cranny. The slight disappointment was the loot wasn't that exciting. There's different rarities of weapons, however, unlike games like Borderlands or Destiny where the guns get more extravagant as the rarity goes up, here it's simply damage numbers rather than cosmetics or features. I can't really complain too much because this isn't a looter shooter, and perhaps exposure to these other games mean I'm simply spoiled. But then again, the loot could have definitely been better. Weird West is a funny little game. There's elements here I really like, and there's things here that really turn me off. The 5 stories are great, the cast of characters are rich, and they're really interesting and it'll make you want to come back. There's a sense of replayability too, meaning you'll most likely come back for another playthrough. Weird West is much like its name, it's strange, but it's an entertaining one. It's also on Xbox Game Pass, so if you've got that service, definitely give it a go. Well, the developer was Wolfeye Studios, published by Devolver Digital. It's out on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, and I reviewed it on PC via Xbox Game Pass, and originally released on the 31st of March 2022. Well, that is it for my review of Weird West. Definitely a strange little game, but it's quite unique, and I would recommend giving it a go, especially if you like other games from Arcane. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button down below and subscribe to This Week in Video Games. Or you can check me out on Twitter at TWIVG Podcast. If you enjoyed this video, found it useful, liking and sharing the video would really help me out. Otherwise, check out the other videos on the channel. Well, thanks again, and I'll see you soon.